Hey guys, I'm Emily Powers, and today I'm going to paint this horse silhouette. It's going to be a beginner tutorial, and I'm going to show you step by step how to paint it in acrylics. This is the reference photo I got off of Pixabay, I think it was. It's royalty free, and the trees are kind of funky and ugly right now, so especially this right in here. I don't know what happened with that. But I'm going to kind of straighten the trees out and not put that weird thing in there. So I'm also going to tell you how you can make it a little more colorful. It's kind of got some orangey yellow in it that I like, but you could change the color to be more green or anything like that you want to. And I thought I would just say at the very beginning that this is the last painting in March, so these are all paintings that I've already done on my channel, and so the new schedule is going to be these 4 in April, and I didn't make May yet, so I think I'm going to just do it 1 month at a time now. But so next week's going to be the beach, and then we're going to do those in the following weeks, and I'll show you the beach enlarged at the end, my finished painting of that. So the paint colors I'm using for this are titanium white, vermilion, which you could, I'm not sure if I'm going to use it. If I do, I'm not going to use a whole lot of it, so you could probably leave that out and just mix the yellow and the burnt sienna together and get a somewhat orange color, or just use whatever orange you like. And then cadmium yellow medium, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and burnt umber. So, and the canvas panel I'm using is a 9x12 Phoenix canvas panel. And the brushes are a 1-inch bright, so I'm going to be using that for like the main filling in part. And then I got 2 Deerfoot stipplers, the 3/8 inch and the 1/4 inch, and then a 3/8 inch angle shader and a small round brush. So I'm going to start with my 1-inch bright for the background. And I didn't mention that I'm going to be using Glazing Liquid, I think for the fog, but I just didn't put it out yet. And I'm going to be using a water-soluble pencil. This is a scribble pencil for the drawing. So I'm going to start just by taking the white, and it's pretty much pure white in the sky. If you wanted to, I guess you could put some blue in it, but I think it being white, that's, you know, the fog is making the sky completely white, so it may look a little funny to put blue in it. I don't know. It may not be very natural if you put blue in with the fog. I don't know. I don't really remember seeing any pictures of fog that had a blue sky, but I mean there could be some. And even if it's not realistic, if you want to do it, go ahead. It's your art, so you can do with it whatever you want to. So I wanted to say, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. My channel is all about learning to paint with acrylics, and I try to make beginner tutorials and more advanced tutorials. So like if you've been painting a while, there should be something on there for you too. So you can check that out just by clicking my picture or my name. And I kind of sprayed my white over there, and I didn't even see it happen. I just looked over and I'm like, there's white all over there. But I'm excited for April because I kind of made a bunch of bright pictures, so I was still kind of doing winter type things in February. And then in March I did the winter cabin. And then I did the betta fish, so that was getting more color. And then I did the landscape, which was very colorful. So we're getting into the colorful spring, summer, bright pictures, so I'm excited about that. Okay, so now I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it. Maybe a little bit of the orange and a little bit of burnt sienna. So it's just like a light, very light orange, orangey yellow color. And I'm going to put that right below and kind of blend it in a little bit. I don't want to go too far with it because it's very light. And my burnt sienna puddle kind of a weird shape. I spit it out and I'm like, that looks kind of disgusting. Like, that does, I would much rather it look like a puddle, but it kind of came out the way it wanted to, so it's very unusual looking. So now I'm just adding more yellow and burnt sienna, making it a little brighter, putting that below. And so we already kind of have the foggy look to it. And then I'm going to take some more orange and some more burnt sienna, make it a little darker, and maybe a little bit of the burnt umber, and yellow. And I'm just going to kind of tap it, and I'm going to put some of it kind of in here. And you can see I didn't fully blend it on my palette. So I'm going to tap, and then right about, let's see, right below, let's see. I'm going to go up a little higher with this. Colors start getting bolder faster than I made them. And then I'm going to start tapping, and I'm going to, let's see, take my spray bottle and spray my paint so that it doesn't dry out there. Okay, so then tapping, and right about the halfway mark, you do the halfway and then split it again, so do it in fourths. Right about in this middle point, it's going to start kind of making some grass shapes. So I'm going to start tapping, and so it's now you're kind of seeing some texture. But I'm very lightly tapping at the top, and then I tap a little harder once I get down further, because at first it's kind of not as noticeable, and then you start noticing it a little more. So I got some white because it was a little lighter up there. And I'm going to grab a few of those colors and try to not over blend it. So I'm just lightly, very lightly tapping and getting these grass looking brush strokes. And try not to make it matchy, so you don't want to like do the same. If you have like some bright red or something in a certain area, and so your brush, every time it taps, it puts the red in that same spot every time, then it can look a little repetitive, and you don't want that. So try to kind of make it random. And just lightly tapping, especially when I get to that part where you're just starting to see it. I'm tapping really lightly at that point so that I don't get too dark of a color back there. So the harder you tap, the more paint will come off, and I don't want a whole lot down there, or up there. Okay, so then over this way, there's some brighter, like yellowy, orange colors. So I'm going to tap those in. Sorry about that. If you heard that, my dog just barked. She's in the other room, and she's probably hearing me talking, thinking that I'm a stranger because she's not right there with me, so she's going to think that I'm in danger or something. Okay, so now I'm getting the burnt umber, and I'm going to put some dark so that I can go back and it'll have some depth to it. And then I think what I'm going to do is kind of all down here is all kind of really dark. So I'm going to get the burnt umber and ultramarine blue and make like a almost black browny color. Probably more brown though. I'm going right up into that other color. And then I'm going to start tapping so that it doesn't look like just out of nowhere I started going back and forth. So I'm going to tap some of this. I'm going to go back into here and tap later, but for the moment I'm just tapping where that transition is. We just had some cows. We're pretty much surrounded by cows and crops and things, fields out here, and the cows are, they just moved into the field that's like right outside my bedroom, and so I woke up one morning to them making really loud sounds, and I'm like, okay, can you please just, I think the farmer like just fed them, and so they were like really having a cow. So it's like, can you feed them like later when I'm not sleeping? They're pretty cute though. Sometimes you can see like the baby calves playing in the field, and they're pretty cute. One of the cows was scratching his head right outside my bedroom door window. He was scratching his head on the side of a tree. It was kind of funny. Okay, so now I'm just taking the dark and kind of making this dome shape, kind of, sort of, because there's dark in there. Put a little bit over there. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna just rinse my brush out now and come back after I've dried this with my hairdryer and do the next step. Okay, so now that this is dry, I'm going to take my 3/8 inch Deerfoot stippler, and I'm not wetting it. You could just slightly dampen it, but you want to get as much water out of it as you can. So I'm going to take this color. It's kind of drying, so I'm going to move over here. And take this, and this will make it look a little more like leaves and things back here. So I'm going to take it and stipple and it'll make it look more like the leaves and things back here. And I'm going up to about where the color stops, and then when we do the fog later, it will look a little more set back. Now it kind of looks like bushes. I'm going to take some white and put that right above it, just to kind of make it not so bright up there. And you want to kind of make the tip facing down slightly. You don't want to just like do it like this, but kind of just a little bit. You see, I hold it back here. That's better, now you can see it. So my first coat was a little more brown. And then I kind of switched to a more gold color. So normally I wouldn't really be holding the brush this far back. I mean, it works, but I'm doing this so that you can see where I'm putting the color, because normally I would hold it down like here and do it, or somewhere around here, but you can't see what I'm doing when I hold it like that. So I really have to pay attention to that, because like during my squirrel video, you couldn't see what I was doing with the tail. And I don't really think about looking for that, because I really, unless I look up into the camera, I cannot see what I'm doing. And sometimes I forget to do that. So now it's a little more brown. I'm just going to kind of go back and forth between colors and stipple. So it's going to be some brown and some gold. So my video last week with the landscape was really fun. If you haven't seen that one was, it took quite a while to do, but it was pretty fun. So if you like doing landscapes, then you might want to look at that. Now I'm getting a little more of this gold, more gold color. And I'm sorry if you watched that video and there was a weird noise in it, because I didn't realize that until I started editing it. There was this weird noise that just suddenly appeared, came up, and I realized it's because I started charging the phone that I use for filming. And it's like, I wouldn't think it's supposed to do that, but I guess now I know, don't charge it while you're filming, because as soon as I plugged it up, that's when it started doing that. So now I'm taking some of this dark color and putting it in there, just because there is some dark. And doing this will make it look more like the leaves and dirt and whatever else is down here. I don't know. It's pretty much, it's almost like a fall type painting, it looks like, because all the leaves are on the ground. There's some in the tree, but there's a lot of leaves on the ground. So if you wanted to, instead of doing this bright gold, you could do like a green, or you make, change the grass to look like a different time. And I'm taking white and going over this where I can see the dark areas here. I didn't really think of that, but it's okay. It's not going to be bad. Okay, and then I'm going to take this dark and start putting that in. It's the Ultramarine Blue in Burnt Umber. And I'm going to put that throughout this whole bottom area pretty much. I think this is going to be a really fun, simple painting. I think this would be perfect for like a first time painting. I mean, I don't know, the silhouette might be a little hard. I don't think it'll be that bad though. I think it's pretty good. I mean, if you don't think you can do the silhouette, then I guess maybe try a few other paintings that are easy first. But I don't think it would be that hard. Just keep drawing it until you like the shape. And that's how I started painting, is I did a bunch of silhouettes. And at first I thought that it would be way too hard to try anything in color. So I did about 2 paintings that were just silhouettes, and then I started doing color ones. And after doing just a few tutorials on YouTube of easy beginner paintings that, were colored, I felt more like I could do any beginner painting. So, but I started with the silhouette because I was kind of afraid of the color. So this would be a really good one. And any of my other beginner tutorials, like the Lonely Poppy, that one was really easy. And it's short, so if you don't have a whole lot of time, then it's the shortest video I think that I have. So I'm going up to about here, and I'm just kind of putting a little bit of dark in these orange areas, but I'm not putting it very dark. I'm just lightly tapping it. down here I was like really, like you could almost hear me doing it there. And if you hear a noise in the background, like some popping noises, that's the fire. It's kind of relaxing in a way though. So I like it's keeping it very warm in here. It's still really cold outside. I can't wait for it to warm up. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my brush out, and when I use it again, I'm gonna like try to get as much of the water out as I can. So I'm tapping down really hard on my paper towel, or my rag. It's not a paper towel, but you could use a paper towel if you wanted to. And then I'm getting this gold again, and I'm gonna put some of that in here. Put it all back there, mixing up a little bit more. And I'm going to take some burnt sienna and make a version of it over here. And just put a little bit in the dark areas because there are some orange leaves. There's just not a whole lot. I'm probably going to go back again with the dark just because it's kind of laying down quite a bit, so I don't want it to be that much of that orange. Okay, and then there's some really light color back here. So I'm going to take my white, it's really light, and I'm just going to barely just tap a little bit of that color down. So it's like the sun is shining through the trees and hitting the floor, making it really bright. If you wanted to, you could do any silhouette. You could even put some bird silhouettes in the trees if you wanted to. You could put a person with the horse. So like if you really like riding horses, then you could put yourself in it. So just, you know, do whatever you want to do with it. Okay, so now it's kind of, you know, bright now. So I'm just going to tone it down a little bit with some of the dark. Just kind of making it not so bright. I still want some of that white, but not that much. Okay, I like it. I may put a little bit of this white up in here. And some of the bright orange, because it was bright orange over here. And there is like a patch of green, but I didn't really want to put that in. I just thought it would be, I mean, you know, you could do this whole thing green, but I just didn't really want to put the extra. I mean, it's just like a small little patch, so I thought I'd just leave it out. Alright, so I'm rinsing my brush out, and I'm going to put some color in the trees now. So I'm taking the burnt sienna and burnt umber. I'm going to put a little bit of trees that, leaves that are back behind the branches. So there are going to be branches that I'm going to put in here, but I want to put in the background leaves first. And I'm going to take my orange now and put that in there. So it's really bright, but I wanted to put the dark first to have some of that. And put some over here. I'm going to take this white and this dark color. And I don't want a whole lot, and I'll just put a little bit right here. So some of it is kind of light and you can hardly see it. And others are darker. Okay. So some of it is kind of really small like that. And there's also some that are kind of like bigger dots. So I'm going to take this color with my small round. This is the Velvet Touch #1 round that I use in almost every one of my paintings. I got the wrong color. I use this a lot for the details and things. I could put that, just put some dots down. And they don't have to be perfect little round dots, just kind of give an indication of some individual leaves. Keep wanting to reach for this over here, I don't know why. And I'm going to put a few of them in here. And this will make it look a little more like there's, you know, it's not just these small little ones. There's a more depth, I think it gives. I think I really like having these extra little dabs in here. Makes it really pretty. Now at the moment it looks kind of funny with this dark and the white with the blobs in the air, but it will look like a landscape with a horse in a little bit. Okay, so I'm rinsing my brush out and I'm going to get the dark with the burnt umber. So this is the burnt umber and burnt sienna together. I'm going to put some darker ones in here. So on this, the darker is kind of on top of the lighter. I guess because the light's hitting it this way. I probably, now that I look at it, I probably should have done it that way for all of it. But it's too late now. I mean, I could just go over the whole thing with white, but I'm not, obviously not going to do that while I'm filming it. I'm going to put a little bit more leaves right there. And there are some more leaves, but I'm not gonna, well, I can't decide. Let me put a little bit of them over here. There's a little bit that kind of comes off this way. And then I'll get some more of the brighter, put that in, and then I'm going to get the dark and put some of that. Okay, now that's all I'm going to do for that, for the moment. I'm not going to do any more. Okay, so I'm rinsing that brush out real good. And now I think, let's see, what do I want to do? Now I think I'm going to put in, actually I need to do the fog. So I'm getting this brush I just had, the stippler, and I'm going to make sure that I get all that color out, because I mean if it has just some like way up in there and it's not going to really come out, then that probably shouldn't be a problem. But if it's coming out like really bad, then you want to get as much of that out as you can, because we're going to do white next, so you really don't want to discolor that. Okay, and now is when I'm going to get my glazing medium, and it just spit out on my finger. Okay, so I'm going to put some here. Okay, and so I'm going to get the white with the glazing medium and tap out most of it. Let's see. Okay, so you want this to be dry. And I'm just going to kind of swirl it around. So that it kind of makes fog, so you can see the difference. And I want to do it thick, like more white when I get to the, you know, when I start, and then kind of try to get some of that out by the time I get to the bottom. So I don't want barely any of it in my brush when I get to this bottom part. And just making this fog. And this is really fun too, making the fog. It's pretty neat how it works. I mean, it just really, just that alone makes this look way cooler, way prettier. And if you try this tutorial, I would love to see it. You can share it with me on my Facebook group, Powers Paint and Post. It's specifically made for you being able to share your paintings that you've done for my tutorials. So if you have some that you've done and you want to share them with me, then that's where you can do that. And at some point I'm going to have some polls in there, so that should be really fun. So you can vote on new tutorials. So now I'm taking more white, more of the white, and going right where I kind of started the stippling and kind of going over that so that it doesn't look just placed there. So it looks pushed back. All right. All right, so it looks pretty good. So I'm going to rinse my brush out now. I'm liking it already, and it doesn't even have the trees or anything in it. I love it when you get to that part where you're thinking that what you're doing is actually working and that it's going to look good at the end. That just makes me happy. So I think I'm going to take my 3/8" angle brush. I may not even need to use that other stippler. I had it out because I thought I might need a smaller one, but I don't know that I'm going to. So I wet it in my water, and I'm going to take the burnt umber and ultramarine blue to make like a black or a very dark gray. So it's equal parts. Looks pretty good. And I'm going to see where I want my trees. So there's one that kind of starts here and kind of wiggles around and stops right there. Okay, so I'm just going to do a small line and then do like the other side of it. Just making sure that I am going to get that where I need it to go. And when I do my first coat, it may be a little thin, so you can see straight through pretty much. And it's not as nearly as dark as you want it to be. So I'm going to have to go over it again, but we have to put the first layer down. So if you had thicker paint, it may be fine with one coat, but mine is a thinner paint, so at the moment I have to kind of go over certain spots more than once. Okay, so I think that one looks pretty good. It's kind of all wavy. You know, trees, you may tend to want to paint them just straight and perfect and not have any, you know, imperfect things in them. But in real life, trees are not. They have some funky things in them, so don't try to make them all perfect. And then one stops about right here. And the white from the fog is still wet, so it's kind of lightening that part up, but it's okay. I think this would look cool on a big canvas. I think it would look pretty neat. I'm gonna do one big one. Let's see, right here. And it's gonna come down right here, so it's kind of slanting this way. I want to do more big paintings, like ones that are on large canvases, not necessarily for YouTube, but for just to get better at it, because I feel like every time I try doing a large canvas, I get really nervous and something proportions aren't quite right, or I mean, I do pretty good, but it's kind of stressful because I don't do it enough. So this is kind of like a bunch of trees together. So it's kind of like right about here is one, and then there's another one, and it kind of, I don't know, I'll define it more, but right now it's all black. So right now we're just going to paint it in dark. And don't do a hard edge when you do the bottoms of these, because we're going to have to put, it's going to be like a dark shadow. Over here we're going to see some grass over it, so depending on what tree it is, I think this is the only one that we're going to have grass over, and we're going to kind of see the bottom. But these are going to have dark shadows, so you're really not going to see where the bottom of the tree is. You're not going to have to cover it up because it's kind of a shadow there. I'm having to mix more because I ran out. Okay. And then I'll do, there's one that's kind of right here, and then it disappears. So it's behind there, too. At the moment it kind of looks like one tree, but there's like a highlight on the side of this one, so you can tell that it's not the same one. Alrighty, and let's see, so now we get to the funkity part. Well, there's kind of a tree branch that's coming off over here. That's pretty good. It's a little thicker in the picture, but I don't really want it that thick, so I'm just gonna not do it that much. And it's got a tree branch that's coming off over here. And use the end of your brush to do really thin lines. And I'm not really worried about going through this tree because we're gonna have to go over a second time anyway, so. And I really love this angle brush because it comes to such a fine point. I can get really thin lines with it. I don't really even see a branch connecting these. really. Maybe coming up from one of these down. So I'm just going to kind of leave it like that for the moment. And there are some little branches that are coming off this way. Just put a few in there. And there's a very thin branch that comes down right about there that has some little leaves on there. And so for here, let's see, it's going to come down a little further, and I'm going to put it up like that. It's going to be a smaller tree. Fill that in. And I may even take some of the glazing medium at the moment with that brown and kind of put where I want the shadows to go. So they're kind of a diagonal just a little bit, like that. So this one's kind of got some coming down. So I really didn't do a whole lot, but it darkened it up a little bit. Yeah, I really like this. I wasn't sure that, I thought something about the horse silhouette looked a little funny, but you know, you can't see exactly where the legs are when it's just black. You can't really see, but it's a real photo, so I know that the horse really was standing like that. Okay, and I'm going to take one and bring it off there as another little branch coming. Well, it's kind of a big branch, but. And then I'll take off one this way, coming off. And you can add more water to your paint or more glazing liquid to help it flow and get in those grooves of the canvas. Alrighty, and I will, let's see, do these smaller trees. They're a little lower than that one. That's very skinny and comes up like this. And just make it a little wider at the bottom. And it's so black I can't tell which one's going over the other, but. And there's another one that kind of comes, this one's kind of a funky one too, so I'm just going to kind of undo its funkiness a little bit. It's kind of got some waves in them, but you know, this one's kind of wavy too, so And I really like the waves in this one. It's kind of cool. And let's see. You can do some tree branches coming off. Up here. There looks like there's a little one. Let's see. There's some trees that are like hanging down here that have a few leaves coming off of them. So maybe this is where like these are coming from, is some branches out of the sky. So there's probably some bigger branches above that are shooting off these little ones, and they're facing down because of the angle they're at. Alright. And there's like a bunch of branches in here, but I'm not going to do that many. Alright. So there is a little more leaves in here that I'll have to put in. I probably will use that smaller Deerfoot to get in between these. Right, so I'm rinsing that brush out, and I'm going to do some more leaves. So I'm getting my smaller Deerfoot, and I'm not wetting it. See, all of this stuff's dry, so the yellow and the orange, mainly yellow, and some of this over here, burnt sienna, and wipe a lot of it off so that it's just barely on there, and just tap a little bit where branches are coming down. So if you have branches in different places than me, then put color where the branches are coming. So where the branches are thicker, I'm going to put thicker color. And then I'm going to get some burnt sienna. I may take some of that plain and just do a little bit of dark in these over here that are just barely showing. And then take the burnt umber and make it darker. Wipe that off. And do some of those darker too. And for the, I'm going to rinse that brush out now. And for the leaves that are more, you know, like dots, I'll take this little round again, and there are some up here, so these are pretty much all dots up here. And there are a few in these ones. Get some water, maybe some glazing liquid, and put some up here. There's some coming off. There's some small ones in here, so just tap very lightly. You don't want to do really big ones like over here, just kind of few small dots. And some over here. And then I'm going to take this darker. I'm going to take my sprayer and keep all that wet. And put a few where these other dots are. So there's some up here. There's actually quite a few dots in here, so I'm gonna go back and put some of those. And then there's some little dark ones over here. Yeah, this is definitely a fun one. Very fun and very easy. Super, super fun. I have a lot of dotting and dabbing and scrubbing, and it is really, really fun. You've got to try it. It's really cool. Okay, and then some of these have some dark acrylic on top, so like they are kind of shadowed. And then I'm going to go back to the lighter and put in all these dots in here that I missed. There's like tons of them. Okay, and then the darker, putting some of those in there. Okay, and I may draw in the horse now because I needed to go over this black again, so I'm probably gonna have to do the horse twice too. So it's right in between these trees, and he's, let's see, if you mark the middle, he's a little lower from that, so he's probably, let's see, right about there. So right kind of where we stopped the foliage. And then his legs come down to, you split the canvas into fourths. His legs don't come that far down, so they're about to here. Okay, so we've got like the head kind of, and then where the legs are going to stop. So I'm going to say his tail kind of stops there. So I'm just kind of boxing it in almost, just with a few lines. And then his snout, not snout, his nose comes, I don't know exactly what you would call his nose for a horse, but so it probably stops right there. So here, 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 and here are my 3 marks. Let me zoom in so you can really, really see it. Move my stuff out of the way. See, I can get, I'm just gonna move my palette over, and sorry about the moving. Takes me a little bit to get it all moved. Okay, so now you can see the marks better. So I'm going to say the nose, let's see where I want to start. So this is the top of the head. It's going to come down, and there's like a hump here, and it comes down, and there's an arch in his back, and then it comes back around and it's kind of straight line there, and it comes straight down into like the tail, and then the belly is kind of right about in here. So it kind of does this shape up like that. And if you you can't really see it a whole lot. If I do anything a little off, I will paint it in and you can see it a lot better. So I'm gonna do that. And the leg comes down and then comes back out. And then this is kind of like where the tail is, and there's kind of like a empty spot where you can see through. And I think his other leg comes down right about there. And then this part, his head I think might be a little tall. I'll see when I get there, but and then this is coming down and slants back, and then other leg is right about there. So it is kind of hard to see the legs at this point, but you can fast forward to when it's finished and it should be a lot better. Okay, so the neck part is a little funky, so I'm gonna take my rag and dip it in the water and just kind of take that off. So it's more like comes out, and so then the head comes out here and kind of slants just down slightly, not a whole lot. And then it kind of comes down where you can see the round of the end of his nose, and then comes back up. And his ear, there's like an ear poking up here and an ear poking up over here. Maybe a little taller than that. And then his neck comes back down over here. And it kind of comes out and back in. So I can tell this shape is very funky right now, so I'm just gonna, I think the head is bothering me. I'm gonna dip my rag in the water again and try to do that again. Now that it's wet, it's not wanting me to really draw on it anymore. Maybe I think the head is a little, the neck comes down a little too low, or too high, I mean. I always say the opposite of what I mean. I don't know why. I always say that when I'm doing a video. Okay, so it actually is a little more like this. And one ear is like poking straight up, and the other one is kind of poking out. And his nose comes straight down. and around. And trying to look, the width of the legs and the body should be about the same. And so this leg probably comes out over here more and that curves in. And so I'm looking at my picture. If I get it next to it, sometimes I can kind of see what I think it needs. Okay, so I think that's pretty good. The drawing always looks a little funny. You know what? Actually, I should probably zoom back in for the filling in of him. Okay, so I'm taking my little round with the Ultramarine Blue and Burnt Umber, the same as the tree color. And so try to make it in equal parts. And I'm going to start filling him in. Then when this is done, we can take the black around it off and see a little bit more of what we're doing. So just kind of flick for the end of the tail. And then leave that gap right there. I think I did it a little too thick, so I'm gonna get my water and rag and fix that. And then his other foot is kind of back in here. And we're going to set him into the painting when we're done with him. So at the moment he kind of looks like he's floating, but and the ears are so dark that I kind of can't see where to put them, so I'm just going to wait for that. So it's going to look all filled in and perfect at first, but when we take the chalk off, we're going to see all the edges that were not smooth and everything. So this leg starts here and then kind of comes in. And then this other one is back behind here and just goes pretty much straight down. Okay, so I don't like, the legs look a little small to me, so they're not long enough. So I'm just going to make them a little longer. So this one's going to come down a little, so it's kind of like his backside is a little closer to us, so that's why that leg is longer. These back legs are both longer than these front ones. Okay. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom back out. And I got my rag all kind of crumpled up over here. Okay, so now I'm going to take my angle brush and do the trees darker. And I think I'm going to kind of cover up some of these white areas. Let me do that first. Take my big stippler and take some of the dark and cover up some of that. Take some of the orange color and cover some of it up with that. Alright, that's pretty good. Alright, so I'm gonna take it and fill that back in, so now it is much darker. Got over a little too far there. edges, I think, could be a little darker. I don't know where this one was coming from. Right here, I guess. And this one. You got like a ball of paint there. This one's really relaxing. I don't know, it could be partly the fire that's making me relaxed, but it's really, really fun. Gotta make some more now. Just try not to change the color too much when you mix it the next time. Try to get it pretty close to the original. Of course, when it's that close, when it's that dark, it's kind of okay if it's a little different because it's so dark you kind of can't tell. But you wouldn't want to do like a whole lot of the blue or a whole lot of the brown and not enough of the other, because it could be a different color than what you had. And then what we're going to do is do this black a second time on the horse too. And that way it'll be really dark for us. cover up this, oops, this area that's got these other leaves there. Because it's kind of wanting to show through a little bit, so. So if it's not wanting to cover, you could do really thick paint to make sure that it gets it all good. And now you can kind of do the shadow and get the glazing medium for the outside edges. So it's kind of a really dark, like the tree in the middle, and then kind of fades out a little bit on the edges. Actually, down here is not as dark. So I'm going to take my stippler and go with some lighter and kind of cover that bottom up a little bit. I don't want the dark going all the way. And so these two are a little further out that way, and so where the shadow and the tree come together, it's going to be pretty dark, almost to where it's like you shouldn't be able to see where the tree stops and the shadow starts. Okay. So I think now I'll try to get this off. This chalk off. So I'm wetting my rag, and you just want to barely touch So I didn't do the ears, so therefore he is bald now. And it's taking off a little bit of the black, trying to leave on as much of that as I can. But it is doing it a little bit. Once I've got it good enough to where I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to take my round brush with that dark and go back and do a second coat over it. You may have to do 3 coats depending on how thin your paint is. If you're doing this with like craft paint, you would have to do several coats on it. Probably on everything, you would have to do several coats on. And you can't, I would think you could do this with craft paint. I've really never tried to do techniques like what I'm doing now with craft paint, but I've heard you can do similar things with it. And then for the ears, he's got one, it's a little past the bend of his, where his chin meets his neck, and then the other one's a little shorter and kind of pointing the other direction. And he's got shadow underneath him, so I'm going to take my small Deerfoot stippler and put a little more of the dark kind of around him because it's a little darker where he is than I made it. I'm going to take some of the white and just put little patches of that, and then the yellow and orange. Kind of brighten it up. Alright, so now let's see. I'm going to take my small round again, and there are some, actually, get this angle brush and put a branch right down in there. It's very watered down, so let me make some more here. Okay, and then I'm going to use that, and that's going to kind of be the branch for the other leaves. So there's this spot that kind of has leaves over the tree, and I'm going to get some more yellow and some white and put some on top of the tree like that, and that will kind of cover better. Okay, and then I'm taking the darker, putting some Now this is where the sun's kind of shining through, so I'm going to kind of leave that alone. And I'm going to get the burnt sienna, put some of those in. There are a few leaves over this, but they're covered up by this tree, so they're a lot darker. I guess the sun coming in here is making these lighter. I'm not sure. Then I'm going to get the burnt umber and put some of these darker dots in with this. And they kind of come out over here. Okay, and then now that this is more dry, it's pretty dry, I think we can do it. I'm going to take the Glazing Liquid and this color right here, the dark. I'm going to see how that is. So the legs kind of cast a shadow this way. And it's kind of hard to tell if that's what it is. And then this is all dark from the horse's body. It kind of keeps going to over here. So there's just some small little areas over there you can tell is the leg shadow. And then it comes over here and kind of disappears. So you can take more glazing liquid and kind of fade it out. Okay, yeah, I was thinking there's one more thing I need to do. It's the sun. So that's pretty dry. So I'm going to take my smaller Deerfoot and I'm going to wash it out. And it's a good thing I did just to check because it's got like a lot of yellow in it. So I'm rinsing that out real good. I'm going to do an indication of a sun peeking through there. So I'm going to take the white and the glazing medium, and I'm just going to take a little bit, so it's kind of like dry brushing, and I'm going to do like this, take a little bit more, just kind of cover over the little bit of area. It's okay, it's picking up some of the orange. So I'm going to be more careful now. I pretty much got the effect that I wanted to right before that happened, so kind of show it a little bit on the branches that are around it. And I'll take some of this light color and kind of stipple in so it doesn't look like it blended. Alrighty. I think that's pretty good. I like it. So, actually, I really do like it, but I'm just going to darken up that silhouette just a little bit because I'm seeing a little bit of the background still, just ever so slightly. Okay. So I'm going to rinse that brush out now. So there is, I think, still a little bit of chalk around the horse, but I'm not going to risk lifting up anything. So I'll just have to do that later. But anyway, so this was our old schedule. So we have all these out now. So if any of those interest you, then they're on my channel. They're all painted and everything. So there's some really fun ones in there. This one seems to be one that everyone likes. I guess it's kind of different. You don't see a whole lot of paintings like that. And I really like the bird's nest and the cat. The fish was super fun. So there was a lot of really fun tutorials in there. And then these are the ones we have for April. So we have another horse coming up, so that'll be really fun. And a few beaches, so there's some palm tree silhouettes in front of a beach and galaxy with a tree silhouette. So these two are the easier ones and these are the harder ones. And this one's one that is one that I painted. I don't think I can get it all on the screen, but that's the painting. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. So if you want to see that tutorial, then you can subscribe, and there should be a bell right next to it that you can hit, and that will alert you to when that video comes out. So I hope you enjoy this video, and thanks for watching. Bye.